Hello again everyone from Tokyo, Japan, and welcome back to Japan Vintage Camera. It's a really nice, clear and sunny day here in Tokyo with wonderful visibility. Looking out from the window from my bedroom, I have a wonderful view of the city and I can see all the way to Tokyo Bay. Pretty much straight ahead over to the left, and a little bit of Tokyo Tower, and of course the big Mori Tower over toward the right by Roppongi Hills. It's a nice day today, which is kind of unusual because the weather's been so tricky for the last couple of weeks. We've had warm and sunny days followed by cold and rainy days, and then last week we had the biggest snowstorm of the year in Tokyo. So yeah, spring is one of those really odd times of year. Winter never wants to go peacefully or quietly, and there's always a big struggle in the change of seasons here. But I hope today that spring has finally come out on top and we'll have warm weather for the rest of the year. It's a little bit noisier here in Tokyo than usual because today they're practicing the new glide path for Haneda Airport, and about every 3 or 4 minutes an airliner passes overhead on its way to the airport. Normally they fly over Tokyo Bay, and we never hear airplanes so much here, but over the last 3 or 4 years there's been a huge increase in the number of tourists coming to Japan, and with the prospect of millions more coming to the Olympics, they had to add another glide path to bring in all the aircraft. And though the Olympics has been postponed to 2021, the city is still going ahead with the planning it needs to make for the extra traffic. Anyway, today's camera is a really interesting camera, the Mamiya C3, which is part of Mamiya's C series of twin lens reflex cameras. In the late 1950s, Mamiya thought there might be a market for a professional quality TLR camera with an interchangeable lens system. So they introduced a camera called the Mamiya Flex C. And the Mamiya Flex C is quite similar to the camera here that I'm holding in dimensions, but with a few minor cosmetic differences and a different kind of leatherette on it. After the Mamiya Flex C, the C2 was introduced, and then the C3 was introduced. Now the C3 didn't exactly replace the C2, both continued in production, but the 2 and 3 series were kind of branched off in different directions. The C2 evolved into the C22 and C220, whereas the C3 evolved into the C33 and C330. The main differences you'll notice between the 2 and 3 series are the film winding systems. The C2 used a film winding knob, and the C3 series used this crank on the side. But other than that, they are the same camera and they use the same lenses. A number of lenses were made for the C series. The widest was a 55mm lens, and the longest was a 180mm telephoto. And the lenses are all outstanding and really superb quality. You have to be careful with the 55mm and 65mm lenses because these can be prone to haze. So I usually find it quite hard to find one which doesn't have any haze in it. Let's go ahead and take a look at the features and functions of the C3, starting from the top with the focusing hood. The focusing hood is the same as on other twin lens reflex cameras. You simply lift it up and it opens up the rest of the way by itself. There's a focusing loop which you pop up by pushing back this door on the front, and then you would focus as you would with any other twin lens reflex camera. The sports finder operates a little bit differently on the C series than other TLR cameras. Other TLR cameras, you simply push it back and it catches, and you push a button on the back and it goes back up. The C series has kind of a secret method for doing this. You push it all the way down, and then you push this right door here, and it locks. And that allows you to use the sports finder. And believe it or not, in the 1950s, a lot of professional sports photographers used twin lens reflex cameras, odd as that may sound. To release this door, you push this all the way over, let go, and it pops open. And you fold down the focusing loop. And the earlier C-series cameras had this like 4-piece focusing hood where you have to push down the 4 different parts before you have to close it. The C220 and C330 cameras featured a Rolleiflex style hood, or a Rolleiflex F style, with kind of hinges added in the sides of the doors, which allowed you to open and close with just one hand. Quite a big improvement, but this is still easy enough to use. There's a screw on the back which you loosen out, and this allows you to lift off the focusing hood and allow the attachment of Mamiya's Poroflex prism finder, which is quite a nice accessory and not really so difficult to find, and less expensive than the finders that Rolleiflex made for their TLR cameras. Quite easy to replace the hood. You have a couple of rivets here on the top, and these you would use to attach accessory masks for the different lenses. So for the wide angle lenses, the masks include a glass lens which increase the field of view and allow you to use the sports finder more accurately, whereas for the telephoto lenses, these actually close off the mask a little bit and don't have a lens on them, and allow you to frame your subject more carefully to match the focal length of the lens. On the back here we have the film door, and you open it by simply turning the switch following the arrow to the right, and the film door opens. Loading the film in a Mamiya C series is just like any other TLR camera. You put the full roll of film here in the bottom chamber and lock it into place with these pins. Pull the paper leader over the film chamber and feed it into the take-up spool, and wind it in until the arrows on the back of the paper leader line up with the red dots here on the sides of the film chamber. Then you close the door and wind the film until the number 1 comes up in the film counter window. An odd thing about this particular camera is it has a window on the back which allows you to actually look inside and count the numbers on the back of the film leader. It's kind of a redundant thing, but I guess convenient if the film counter ever stops working or for whatever reason. In the 1950s and 60s, sheet film was still popular with professional photographers, and Mamiya produced a back for the C series which allowed you to use sheet film. And to change the back, there are a couple of catches here. You push inward and turn upward, and you pop open the film latch, and the entire film door comes off. This allows you to attach the sheet film back and use sheet film. I very seldom come across the sheet film backs here, so I guess they weren't very big sellers from Mamiya, and I can't understand why people would want to use medium format sheet film. Of course, that's no offense to you guys out there, all you mini guys who shoot medium format sheet film, but yeah, I really don't see much point in it. On the bottom here we have a standard 1/4-inch tripod socket, and we have a couple of pins on the side which allow you to use Mamiya's accessory cable release grip and flash gun. Moving to the left side of the camera here, we have a number of knobs and dials. These are the catches for the film spools, the take-up spool and the film spool. You pull these out and turn them, and they lock in the upward position and allow you to easily remove the film spools, and then you turn them until they lock in place. Here we have a switch which closes and opens and closes the film chamber on the inside to allow you to change the lenses without exposing the film. In the unlock position, you can remove the lens because the film door is closed and not allowing light to pass through the camera. In the lock position, the camera is locked and you can begin shooting film. Around this we have a dial for adjusting your film speed, and here we have a shoe for the flash, and then here we have one of the 2 focusing knobs. And we have focusing scales here for the 65mm and 80mm lenses, because the infinity is in different positions. When you push the camera all the way here, it's at infinity for the 105mm lens, but for different focal length lenses you have to use the mark here to find infinity. For example, that would be right here for the 80mm lens, and I guess about here for the 65mm lens. On the top here we have a safety catch, which prevents you from accidentally exposing your film. In the unlock position you can unlock the safety catch, and this will allow you to open the mechanism to replace the lens. You notice when I push it to lock, it automatically locks this to keep the lens from being removed. To interchange the lens, you would push this to the unlock position, release the lock here, and then there's another safety catch. You have to push this down and then pull it forward. and then this allows you to remove the lens. And as you can see, the door here is closed, sealing the film chamber so you won't expose your film. I have accessory lens here in its original case. This is a 65mm wide-angle lens. You pop it open here. We have a lens inside, and here we have a focusing mask. When using the wider angle lenses, make sure to take the rear caps off. They're small enough that you can put the lens on without realizing that they're still on there. To install the lens, make sure that this catch is pulled all the way to the right. Set the lens on, hold it in place, and then pull the catch over, and then switch back to the locking position and remove the lens cap, and you're good to go. The Mamiya C3 has the film winding lever on the side, but it does not have the integrated shutter charging system that the C33 and C33 have, or C330. So you have to manually cock the lens each time that you use each time you fire the shutter. So not so difficult to do. The 50mm and 65mm lenses, I don't know if I mentioned earlier, they are prone to haze. So if you're shopping for these lenses, make sure that they don't have any haze in them. The shutters and everything else are quite reliable. Sometimes they stick if the camera hasn't been used in a number of years, but usually you can unstick them by removing the front element of the lens on whatever lens it is, and add a drop or two of lighter fluid to the shutter blades, and that'll usually free it up. On occasion, the aperture blades can also be stuck, and you can free those up by removing the rear element here. Sometimes you can remove it by hand, sometimes you need a rubber stopper, but remove it and add a little bit of lighter fluid to the aperture blades and let it sit for a little while, then work them back and forth. Wipe them off with a cotton swab wetted with lighter fluid, and that'll get them clean enough to use without binding. Don't try to force the aperture blades because they are quite fragile. If you really try to push the aperture adjustment when the blades are sticky or oily, you're likely to break them or shear the pins off of them, and then it doesn't work anymore after that. When you affix the different lens, you have to attach the focusing hood to the top, and it's simply you put it on and simply push it down and pop it open, and when you open up the door, I forgot that step here, and then you can easily see what you're focusing at. You can get the full field of view through the accessory lens. On the right side here we have the shutter button, which is simply this mechanism you push down when the shutter is charged, and then we have a selector switch for sheet film and roll film. So 99.999% of us will use sheet film, so just leave it set to that. An interesting thing about the Mamiya C series is the really long focusing throw, which is necessary for the telephoto lenses when you use them on the C series. But it's also convenient because the long focus throw allows you to shoot at things much closer than you can with an ordinary twin lens reflex camera. So I'm shooting a Rolleiflex and I want to shoot at something closer than normal. I of course have to attach the close-up lenses, whereas with the Mamiya Flex, just focus it out until it's in focus. You have some parallax correction inside the viewfinder, and it allows for fairly far close focus, but yeah, you'll have to pay more attention to parallax problems if you're focusing on something really closely. So anyway, that's it. That's my review of the Mamiya C3 twin lens reflex camera. This one is available for sale right now in my Etsy and eBay stores. Unfortunately, I'm not selling anything at the moment because shipping to most places from Japan has been suspended during the virus emergency. So I'm not sure when shipping will resume. I'm hoping we'll be able to start shipping things out after a month or so. The virus problem still continues to get pretty bad around the world, but on the bright spot in Italy and Spain, they're getting far fewer cases and deaths now. So hopefully the rest of the world will eventually pass over the curve and things will get better, and hopefully we can return to some kind of normalcy here. I I hope you enjoyed the review. If you have any questions, feel free to ask them in the comments section below. I'll be posting more videos about cameras and photography in the future, so if you'd like to see these, please subscribe. And if you have a chance, please visit my Etsy and eBay stores, and hopefully I'll be able to start shipping from there soon. Thank you very much for watching, and I hope you come back again.